The story begins in London in the year 1862. It opens with a flashback from a pilot named Amelia. She is haunted by a painful memory from her past, an accident that once took her husband's life. As the story moves forward, Amelia is on her way into the heart of the city, preparing for another daring hot air balloon mission. When Amelia arrives, she meets James, a determined scientist already busy loading his research equipment into the balloon. Amelia will be the one flying it. The area is packed with people, all gathered to witness the flight, their excitement filling the air. One of James's friends urges him to cancel the mission, warning that it will lead nowhere and could end in disaster. James refuses to listen. He is stubborn and fully committed to continuing, believing this flight is essential for his research. Soon after, Amelia arrives with overwhelming energy. The crowd greets her like a celebrity. It quickly becomes clear that she is not just a pilot, but also a skilled performer. She impresses everyone with acrobatic flips, moving with confidence and joy, much to James's embarrassment. She even introduces her dog, revealing that the animal will be joining them on the flight. Amelia then announces to the crowd that she and James intend to break the existing altitude record, confident that her balloon can climb higher than any before it. Before long, the flight begins. The crowd cheers as the balloon lifts into the sky and their journey truly begins. This is the aeronauts. Once Amelia and James reach a considerable height, Amelia suddenly throws her dog over the edge. James is horrified, and the people below panic in shock. Moments later, a parachute opens, safely slowing the dog's fall. The crowd is stunned, then erupts into applause. As they continue climbing, James is overwhelmed by the view. This is his first time flying in a hot air balloon, and the city below looks extraordinary. In just 3 minutes, they reach 1,200 feet. James reminds Amelia to focus, stressing how critical this flight is to his reputation. A single mistake could ruin everything he has worked for.
I'm the scientist, you are the pilot. Let's stick to our roles, shall we?
Record. They didn't need to see a flying dog.
High above the city, James reflects on the past. A year earlier, he had stood in the same place, watching balloons rise as he gathered data and prepared his theories. He once addressed a room full of respected scientists, explaining that high-altitude flights could help understand the sky and even predict the weather. Instead of support, he was ridiculed. The senior scientists dismissed him as foolish, leaving James determined to prove them wrong.
Correlations.
Sir, we are scientists, not fortune tellers.
No, sir.
He wants my balloon!
You understand? The sky is above us, gents. Please!
After 9 minutes in the air, James and Amelia reach an altitude of 5,400 feet. At this height, the temperature is around 17 degrees Celsius. James immediately gets to work, carefully writing down his observations. He rolls the notes, places them into a small container, and attaches it to a carrier pigeon. The bird is released, carrying a message back to fellow scientists below. Not long after, the balloon drifts into a thick layer of clouds. From this, James concludes that clouds are made up of dense mist filled with tiny droplets of water. But the journey suddenly takes a dangerous turn. Things are no longer as smooth as James had imagined. They are caught inside a powerful cumulonimbus storm. The balloon is violently shaken by the raging winds. The intense turbulence throws them around, nearly hurling them out, with both of them clinging desperately to the balloon's ropes. Amelia comes terrifyingly close to losing her life as she almost falls.
Hold on! The safest way is up!
Take my hand! Take my hand!
Just in time, James manages to pull her back into the basket. Realizing they must escape the storm, Amelia quickly dumps the ballast to make the balloon rise faster. The effort works, but the brutal conditions leave both of them completely exhausted, and they briefly lose consciousness. Soon after, they break free from the clouds and climb even higher. 19 minutes into the flight, the balloon is now floating above the cloud layer. The view is breathtaking. After noticing some damage, Amelia takes a moment to fix a torn rope on the balloon. Then they witness something truly extraordinary. Faint aurora-like lights appear in the distance, leaving James in absolute awe. Above the clouds, everything feels quiet, calm, and strangely peaceful. Yet as they drift closer to the cloud tops, they begin to hear the distant noise of the city below. The clouds, it seems, are carrying sound upward. At this moment, Amelia is pulled back into a painful memory from 2 years earlier. She recalls a tragic event and tells James that she once flew at the same altitude. She does not continue the story. Amelia then tends to the injury on James's head, caused by the storm. As they look toward one another, they are suddenly surrounded by a swarm of yellow butterflies drifting above the clouds. James remembers a friend once claiming that butterflies existed at this height. He had dismissed it as nonsense. Now he realizes the friend was right. These insects migrate by riding air currents, and what they are witnessing is an incredibly rare sight, shared by only the two of them. James soon realizes that the altitude gauge is now reading 23,000 feet. They have officially broken the previous flight record. At this height, James once again releases a carrier pigeon, sending another message down to his colleague.
Thank you for taking me up in your balloon, Miss Red.
Thank you for taking me up in your balloon, Mr. Glacier.
This is the moment that I've been waiting for my entire life.
Amelia, however, begins to feel uneasy. The higher they go, the thinner the oxygen becomes. James also starts acting strangely, his behavior clearly affected by the lack of air. Seeing this, Amelia decides they need to descend to a safer altitude, but James stops her. His curiosity about what lies above is far from satisfied. Amelia warns him that continuing upward will only make the air colder and harder to breathe. If they climb any higher, they could freeze to death. James refuses to back down. He insists that the mission matters more than his own life. With his relentless persuasion, he manages to convince Amelia to keep ascending. As the balloon rises higher, Amelia is filled with wonder as she begins to see stars twinkling above. She releases more ballast, forcing the balloon to climb faster until they reach an altitude of 26,000 feet. Both of them struggle to breathe as the cold tightens its grip. James tries to send another message using the pigeon, only to discover that the bird has already frozen to death inside its pouch. His behavior becomes increasingly unhinged. He starts throwing equipment overboard as the balloon continues climbing, and his nose begins to bleed. At this point, Amelia finally reveals the truth. 2 years earlier, her husband died while attempting the same kind of mission. She cannot bear the thought of watching history repeat itself with James.
We're falling too fast.
We need to lose more weight! Keep looking up!
Down here! No! And imagine this time that I am the pilot.
Hearing this, James begins to understand the weight Amelia has been carrying. He comes to his senses and finally agrees to descend. But when Amelia tries to lower the balloon, she discovers that the top valve has frozen solid. The rope will not budge.
Come on! Open!
Meanwhile, James's condition worsens by the second. With no other option left, Amelia makes the desperate decision to climb up and manually open the valve. Weak and freezing, she forces herself upward along the ropes. The extreme cold numbs her hands, causing her to slip and nearly fall. Only the rope caught around her leg saves her, allowing her to regain control and continue climbing. Reaching the top, Amelia wedges the valve open using her shoe. Moments later, she passes out from the lack of oxygen in the brutal cold. By now, the balloon has climbed to an astonishing height of 36,000 feet. With the valve wedged open by Amelia's shoe, the balloon begins to slowly deflate. Amelia then slips downward. Fortunately, she had secured a rope around her waist earlier, leaving her hanging unconscious above the clouds. Moments later, she regains enough strength to grab the rope and pull herself up. She swings back and forth, struggling to reach the basket.
James!
When she finally makes it inside, she finds James unconscious, his body covered in ice. For a moment, she believes he is dead. Then she sees his eyes open. He is still alive. About an hour later, the balloon finally begins to descend. As they fall back through the clouds, snow drifts around them in the dark sky. James slowly regains full awareness and begins writing down everything they experienced, realizing that the atmosphere is made up of several distinct layers. As they pass through 16,000 feet, the balloon suddenly plunges downward at a terrifying speed. They quickly throw everything out of the basket to reduce the weight, but it makes no difference. The descent continues just as fast. James comes up with a desperate plan. He climbs with Amelia onto the balloon's upper ring, then cuts the rope holding the basket. The heavy basket breaks free and falls away. without the basket, the balloon keeps dropping rapidly. Amelia prepares to jump. At the final moment, James has another realization. He cuts the tether that binds the balloon's inner structure. Once the rope is severed, the balloon spreads open like a parachute, slowing their fall. At last, they prepare for a controlled landing. As the ground approaches, James manages to jump clear. Amelia's foot, however, becomes tangled in a rope, and she is dragged briefly across the ground. Thankfully, she survives and quickly goes searching for James. In the end, both of them live. Together, they turn the impossible into reality. Amelia breaks the record for the highest hot air balloon flight, and James uncovers fundamental truths about the sky that continue to shape science today. Their extraordinary journey is later immortalized in a book titled Falling Upwards. So the moral of the story is, if your scientist friend starts throwing pigeons, shoes, and common sense out of a balloon, maybe listen to the pilot before gravity files a formal complaint.